Today, on the wrath of laughing at liberals, we'll look back to my trial and the statements from Portland police officer Mihran Andonian. Officer Andonian was assigned to the Rapid Response Team, aka Riot Squad, and participated in my arrest on July 7, 2016, after I was attacked in a crowd of protesters and eventually drew my Glock in self-defense. Let's listen in as my attorney questions him, and Officer Andonian eventually says that my actions were appropriate and that he would have done the same thing I did.
So, but just to be clear, you gave verbal commands and also pulled out the sidearm as you approached, is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And did you just do that haphazardly, or is that as per your training?
As per our training.
Okay. So when you gave a verbal command and you pulled out the sidearm and held it low at the ready, was your purpose in doing so to incite or instigate violence, or was it to deter violence?
To deter violence.
Okay. And it worked?
Correct.
Okay. He complied with your commands, and you, when the threat was dissipated, you reholstered your sidearm, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. As per your training and experience, had the threat, rather than dissipating, had it actually increased, for instance, Mr. Strickland not complying, or coming toward you, or otherwise not complying and having that increase, the next step would be, in the appropriate use of force, to point the firearm at him and continue commands, correct?
Possibly. It's hard to say. I mean, if he had reached for his weapon, then I would have pointed my weapon at him.
If he had not complied and had come toward you, let's say in an aggressive manner, you wouldn't have pointed your gun at him?
Objection, Judge. We're just throwing random hypotheticals at this point at the officer.
I don't think it's quite a random hypothetical. Overruled.
Well,
as per your training and experience, what would be the next reasonable thing to do?
we have to take into everything, the whole situation. And I have a group of officers in riot gear with sticks. And so if he's not going to draw his weapon and he's just going to come running at us, I'd probably step back and let them deal with him.
So, officer, what would, under the circumstances with the other officers present, your testimony is, you would most likely have those officers move in and not point your firearm at him. Is that your testimony?
Correct.
Okay. And the reason for that is because those other officers are present.
Correct.
Okay. If those officers were not there, you're on your own with the firearm, what would your next step be in order to try to deter violence?
And I already have my gun out. I'd probably point my firearm directly at him.
Now, the judge wasn't going to let us hypothetically put Officer Andonian in my shoes and go through the exact same scenario that I found myself in, but this is pretty dang close. And keep in mind that in the hypothetical posed by my attorney to Officer Andonian, that was with one assailant, not multiple people coming in from multiple angles, and not after just being physically attacked by some of the pursuers. Also note Todd Jackson, the Weasley DA, objected as he knew right where the line of questioning was going, and that Officer Andonian would vindicate me and say that my actions were appropriate. Stay tuned for more of the wrath of laughing at liberals.